Good morning and welcome on the Macquarie campus. We have been lucky so far, haven't we? It hasn't rained yet, so I hope you will have an opportunity later in the day to enjoy our wonderful campus, have a wander around, have a look at the lake, have a look at the facilities, because it is a great opportunity today to get a bit of a feel for what Macquarie University is all about as a space, and we're very proud to have all of that space. I've just been introduced. I'll say a few more words about myself. My name is Martina Möllering, and those funny dots on the O are there because that name is a German name. So we're jumping straight into languages, jumping straight into the topic for today. I'm a professor of European languages, and I'm also the head of the Department of International Studies. And International Studies at Macquarie University is the department where all of our modern languages are being taught. And I'll tell you a lot more about those languages in a moment. But before I do so, I'd be interested to see how many of you who have come here today to learn about our language programs have actually studied a language up to the HSC. Can I get a show of hands? Okay, fantastic, well done. And you will get bonus points for having done so. I'll say a little bit about it later on. Now, can I get a show of hand who is coming to hear about languages and hasn't studied language so far? Yeah, so we've got a proportion, which is a little bit smaller, which is unusual because all of our programs are open to those who've studied language for the HSC and equally open to students who've never studied the language before. And in fact, the largest enrollments we have in those units for beginners, for students who haven't studied before. I'll say a little bit about that later on. So let's jump into what we do here at Macquarie in terms of language study. And I will be talking for about 15-20 minutes, and then later on there will be time for questions. So if anything is not quite clear, if I use Macquarie Speak, because every university has sort of a certain terminology to talk about degree programs, we can go into that a bit later. There will be time for questions. So language study at Macquarie means that you're going to have on offer one of the largest ranges of languages nationally. We are one of the largest in terms of breadth and depth. So 10 languages are on offer. At the moment, 11 majors in 10 different language areas, and I'll introduce you to those in a moment. We have been praised for our innovative approaches to language learning, in particular for our online teaching approaches. So, in fact, all, except for Chinese, all of our languages are available online and are available for study by distance, as well as in the classroom. And in most of those, we use a mixed mode. So even if you're in the classroom, you have access to online material to foster your language learning. Now, the languages on offer are, of course, Chinese, one of our strategically important languages in the context of Australia and the Asian century. We offer a major in Chinese studies, that is a full program in Chinese studies, and also a translation degree in Chinese English translation, Chinese English, English Chinese, vice versa. I'll speak about that a little bit more in a little bit more detail later. We are the only university in Australia offering Croatian studies, and we work very closely with the Croatian community here in Sydney and Australia-wide. We edit a journal in Croatian studies, and we do that in collaboration with Waterloo University in Canada. So we are a hub for studies of the Croatian language here at Macquarie. We, of course, teach French, but we don't call this study area French studies only. We call it French and Francophone studies, because you will learn, if you do French with us, not only about French as it is spoken in France, but you will also learn about French as it is spoken by some of our neighbors in the Pacific, how it is spoken in the Maghreb, in the northern part of Africa. So we're looking at the Francophone world, not just the French language in France. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you have done French for the HSC? Yes, it is still one of the most popular languages to be done at school and one of the most widely taught. So we usually get a lot of intake of students coming to us and then furthering their language studies in French. We teach German, not surprisingly. You will have gathered by now, having listened to me for 5 minutes, that German might be on the books in our range of languages. We offer German with a view to the German-speaking countries more generally. We focus on Germany, but of course Austria and Switzerland and so forth are included in what we offer in terms of literature and culture studies. Italian, one of our strong languages with a very strong exchange program, and I speak about those exchanges in a moment. And then, of course, Japanese. Japanese is one of our strongest languages in terms of enrollments. Every year we have a head-to-head race between Japanese and Spanish studies. When we do the enrollments for first year, 1 year Japanese wins out, 1 year Spanish wins out, and it's usually sort of 200 plus students enrolling with us in the first year in Japanese and Spanish. Again, very extensive exchange program with Japanese. Modern Greek is one of the languages that receives community support. We work strongly with the Greek community and also with the Greek government, so we always have lecturers sent to us from Greece, and we've got a lot of people taking the language up, not only because they've got a background, but maybe because they're studying ancient history, maybe because they want to travel, so the enrollment is mixed, not only background speakers in this language as well. Polish, again, we are the only university in Australia offering the Polish language and offering Polish cultural studies. And again, we do that with the support of the Polish community here in Sydney and Australia-wide. Russian is one of our strong programs. There are only currently 2 universities in Australia offering Russian, and we work very closely with the Australian National University, who offer a minor in the Russian language and then sort of send their students to us in an online mode to complete their studies with us. And last but not least on the list, Spanish and Latin American studies. And as I've said earlier, for French studies, this is a program that doesn't only look at Spanish as it is spoken in Spain, but it focuses very, very strongly on Latin America. So we have a lot of interaction with Latin America. A lot of the research that is being done in this discipline is directed at Latin America. In Spain as well, but Latin America is the very strong focus. We are, some of you might have been to the Latin American Film Festival, which just closed in the last few days. We are very engaged with that. We are engaged with humanitarian issues in Latin America, so very strong research focus in this area as well. So how can you study language as part of a degree at Macquarie University? Well, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be developing your proficiency in the language. So it's not only about being able to read in any of those languages, so not only an academic pursuit in the sense of accessing text in that language, but we want you to be proficient speakers at the end of your degree as well. We use international standards to benchmark our successes in language teaching and your successes in language learning. So we've been working with the Common European Framework and with the HSK for Chinese, so that we can say when our graduates leave Macquarie University, they've got a certain level of language competency which can be internationally measured. We don't focus on language skills only because we strongly believe that any kind of language learning is always embedded in learning about the culture, learning about the history of where those languages are spoken. So the society and culture where those languages are spoken are at the fore when it comes to the content of our courses. And as I said earlier, all of our courses are offered at beginner's level. So if you have never learned a language and would like to do so, you're going to start off from scratch. So it is not expected that you have any prior knowledge of the language when you come to us. So the opportunities to include language in your degree are manifold. There is, of course, the classic pathway of doing a Bachelor of Arts and majoring in 1 or more languages. And we've got a number of students who major in 2 languages, who choose 2 different subject areas. So they might be doing French and Italian, French and Spanish, German and Japanese, not very often, very often when students do an Asian language that focus on the one language because the effort involved in getting to a certain level of proficiency, the hours involved in getting to that level of proficiency are higher than they are for a European language. So as a Bachelor of Arts, you would typically be doing 8 units, that is 8 courses, 8 language courses minimum. That's what you have to do to get a major in a language. And that would mean that throughout the 3 years of your degree, you study 2 language subjects, 1 language subject every semester. Every semester you're here, you're doing a language subject, and you amend that with target language culture subjects. So you might do a reading unit. Let's say you're doing French. In your 2nd year, you'd be doing a reading unit. And then in your 3rd year, you've got the option of looking at literature, looking at translation, looking at further language studies, or you can take all of those and fit them all into your program. Of course, you can also go overseas, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. With the Bachelor of International Studies, you would also be doing your language study but it's a slightly different setup, and you've got a number of set courses to amend this, and I'll show you an overview of that in a moment. From 2014 onwards, we're offering a new degree, the Bachelor of Global Business Studies. And if you're interested in combining business studies with languages, then you should stay on after this lecture, because at 11 o'clock we're going to have a lecture on the Bachelor of Global Business Studies, yeah? And you get some more information about that. So I will not be going into that in detail now. And then there is the opportunity for doing a diploma of languages. This would be like a major, but a diploma could be combined with a degree in another area. So if you're thinking about doing a science degree, but you would still be interested in serious language study, that is 8 units in language study, then you could combine a diploma with your science degree, or with your business degree, or with any other kind of degree that you're doing at Macquarie. Yeah? It would extend your studies, but it would mean that when you leave the university, you actually have a diploma in a particular language area. We sometimes also have students who want to come into the university but don't quite have the ATAR that is required for getting into the program they want to get into. The diploma can be used as a pathway, and if you'd like further information about that, we're going to be at our advising tables all day today, and we're very happy to talk to you about details of how that could be possible. So I mentioned earlier that we also offer a translation program. Usually translation programs are offered at the postgraduate level. We have introduced this program, the major in Chinese-English translation and interpreting, just a couple of years ago. And it is directed at people who have a background in the Chinese language, who are already fluent speakers in the Chinese language. And it offers the opportunity to include a major in translation and interpreting in your undergraduate studies, and it takes you up to a paraprofessional level. So it is not the full accreditation for translation and interpreting, but it takes you up to a level where you can start sort of doing community service and things like that. And it, of course, prepares you for a master's degree, which gives you full accreditation to become a translator in this language area. Yeah? So again, if you've got questions about that, we can discuss those a little bit later on. It is possible, if you do this particular degree, to, of course, include another language. So if you were doing a Bachelor of Arts with a major in translation and interpreting in Chinese-English, you could then still take another language to complement your degree. Now, the Bachelor of International Studies, and that's probably the degree many of you have come to hear more about, is a degree that combines Europe and Asia, Latin America, and lets you focus on one particular language. So what you would be doing in this degree is you choose one language that's your main area of study, and then you complement that by studying about different regions of the world. Now, why would you want to do a degree like that? So if you feel that this talks to you, if you are in that category of people passionate about learning a language and exploring different cultures, if you're interested in developing your intercultural awareness, and if you're interested in applying those skills through educational exchange, and we have quite a number of exchange programs, or in an internship setting, then this degree will be of interest to you. So how does it work? You study core subjects, as I just said, a minimum of 6 language units. Then you've got 3 units as options from a range of 8 units, so you have to do these 3, but all 8 units are available to you. So you could do much more language study than the 6 minimum, and you can do all of the 8 units on offer to combine your interest in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. And then you've got electives. There's still space in your timetable to choose other subjects. So you might be interested in international relations, politics, history, and you can complement your program with such courses. So what does it look like on a year-to-year basis? So in the first semester of year 1, you would be doing your language unit, and that would be either at the 100 level if you're a beginner, or it would be at the 200 level if you've already done the language up to HSC level. You would also be doing a unit that's called cross-cultural communication. That is compulsory. It's a core unit for all students doing the Bachelor of International Studies. And we have a look at how communication across different cultures works, and how culture is embedded in language, and how we sort of transport cultural values through language, and how we can better our understanding when we talk to people who speak other languages. The other unit that you would typically be doing in your second semester is Societies of Europe, which gives you an overview of cultural, political, historical issues in Europe. Asia in a global world does the same thing for the Asian region, and then you would be doing a People or Planet unit, which is a compulsory part of a degree at Macquarie University. You can choose to do one of either contemporary China, China and world history, or Japan past and present, to complement your first year program. In second year then, you keep working on your languages, so there's always a required language unit, and you will be doing a unit on citizenship, past, present and future. This looks at global issues and movement of people within a globalized world and what role culture and language play in this context. You then choose, and you've got a list of units that you can choose from. You can do more than the two, you will be doing two minimum. The European Union, modern Chinese history, modern Japanese society, Latin American histories, and you have the option of doing an internship in a context where your target language is spoken. And that is fully accredited as part of your degree. You don't do that as an extra, but it is actually part of what you do here for your university degree. And if you haven't done your People or Planet units, that's the time you would be doing them. In your third year then, the whole of the first semester is taken up by exchange. So the first semester of your third year, you will be spending overseas. And that is a compulsory part of the program. So Macquarie University offers very generous scholarships to enable this. So for a semester abroad, a maximum of $4,000 are available. And you apply for this, and you need to have sort of a minimum grade point average, as we call it. So it's comparable to what you get as an ATAR in the school context. So you have to perform at a pass credit level to come up to this level of competence that you can go overseas and that you are eligible for a scholarship. When you come back then, you're going to be doing your capstone unit. Yeah, that's one of the final units of your degree, which you have to complete to qualify for the degree. And that's global issues. And that's where you take up all those skills, your intercultural skills, your language skills, the skills you have gathered, the knowledge you have gathered on your exchange, and put it into a context and look at ways of how you can use this for employment. So we have career advisors, we've got people from DFAT, we have diplomats coming to talk to you. Just on Wednesday, we had the German Consul General talking to the group of students in INTS 3 or 4 to tell them a little bit about life as a diplomat, what kinds of qualities you need, what such a life would look like, so that you actually start thinking at the beginning of your last semester how you're going to be working with what you've learned here at Macquarie University. So that's the degree in a nutshell. Of course, you will have more questions about it, and I'm happy to take those either here or later at the advising tables. But let's talk a little bit more about study abroad. I just mentioned the compulsory exchange semester for the Bachelor of International Studies. It is possible to have an exchange semester with all of your language degrees. So if you're doing a Bachelor of Art, you can include a semester abroad. If you're doing a Diploma of Languages, you can include a semester abroad. And in all of those circumstances, you can apply for the scholarships that are available. What we also offer, and what is very popular, is short-term programs abroad. So we've got courses, 6 weeks in Greece, language and culture studies, 4 weeks in Germany, language and culture study, 4 weeks in Lausanne in Switzerland, language and culture studies. We have it for all of the different languages. And again, Macquarie provides scholarships for those shorter term programs, and these are up to $2,000. So an ideal language study program at Macquarie University would see our students going overseas in their first or second year of study to do a short-term language program, and then in their third year of study to do a full semester in a target language context. And then you can be sure when you complete your degree that you've got the level of fluency in the language that you're striving for, yeah? And that you actually have skills, language skills, that make you much more employable than people without those language skills. Because keep in mind, in the Australian context, only less than 15% of students actually choose a language as a subject for their HSC. So very few people in Australia leave the universities and the schools with substantial language qualifications. So if you do have those language qualifications, they give you an edge in whichever area, whichever field you want to be working at. So you've got here a list of countries that we take you on in exchange. It is an ever-growing list, and I'm very happy to have with me here today colleagues from Macquarie International who, do you want to come up and introduce yourselves for a moment?
This is very impromptu. Hi guys, my name is Josephine Trin. I work for the Macquarie University Exchange team, and I currently work with Professor Mollering in the department on sending Bachelor of International Studies students, Bachelor of Arts students and Diploma of Languages students overseas on exchange. We've got a tent at the central courtyard, so if you have any questions that you want to flick my way, please feel free to come and visit me. I'll be there all day for you. And my manager, Sandra Rogers, is also here. She might want to introduce herself.
Thank you very much for that, Josephine. So, Josephine is a very important person in the contract, so is Sandra. But what they do is they actually sit down with you before you go overseas. We don't just send you out there. We sit down with you, we discuss your program, we choose the university that fits you best, and it is a fully integrated exchange program. So all of the units that you do overseas are part of your degree over here. So there's no kerfuffling around with whether things are going to be acknowledged or not. So why then, or where then, would completing this degree take you? Well, a whole range of different areas. We've listed some here that we know our graduates have gone into. Anecdotally, I can tell you that we had a student completing the German course who then worked in the Austrian consulate. We had a French student who worked with the European Union in Canberra. We have a number of Japanese students going into different Japanese programs for internships in Japan after they finish the degree. A number of students going to become assistant teachers as a start-off in the target language cultures. So there's a whole range. If you combine your language study with a business degree or with a law degree, then of course you will have that extra qualification in those areas that will distinguish you from people without language skills and will make you much more employable in a global context or in a regional, local context as well. Now, I'm going to close here, so we've got a little bit of time for questions. And before you leave, I'll take your questions first, but before you leave, I've got a few more pointers of things you might want to be doing, fun things to be doing with languages on campus today.